It was all drama and chaos on Tuesday, as two factions in the People's Democratic Party took over the party's headquarters in Abuja. The confrontation pitted the faction led by Governors Seyi Makinde and Bala Mohammed against the group loyal to FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. The chaos escalated to the point that police fired multiple rounds of tear gas to disperse the fighting supporters. The crisis rocking the party took another fiery turn as the factional National Executive Committee loyal to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, ratified the expulsion of Governors Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State, and Dauda Lawal of Zamfara State. The NEC also expelled former chairman of the Board of Trustees, Senator Adolphus Wabara, former national vice chairman of the party, Chief Olabode George, and the recently elected party national chairman, Kabiru Tanimu Turaki, SAN. The move comes just days after the controversial PDP National Convention held in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, last Saturday. We saw Wike and his loyalists expelled from the party. Joining us on this show to address the face-off between rival camps led by Turaki and Wike is Professor Anthony Kila, Director, Commonwealth Institute of Advanced and Professional Studies. Good morning, Professor Kila, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, everybody. Good to be here.
Morning.
Okay, first, Professor Kila, our condolences on the passing of Mr. Dan Agbese at the age of 81, one of the principal members of the National League of Columnists, which you serve as secretary, and to all the other members of our tribe in that body. But now you are here to discuss People's Democratic Party and the crisis within that party. We all know the details, but what's your take? What is the implication for the democratic dispensation in Nigeria now that KTSAN says President Trump should come and save Nigeria? And also, you know, the concerns that have been expressed about the threat of the emergence of a one-party state in the face of the collapse of most of the opposition parties.
Well, thank you very much. I think, and you know, thank you for the mention of the late Dan Agbase. A great man is gone, and we are left with a lot of not so great people, starting from those we saw in the PDP headquarters. I think let us lay a preamble to state that the reason why we're talking about the PDP this morning is not because we're of the PDP or against the PDP. It is because those who respect institutions, love democracy, and understand what civility and civic sense is must have interest in having a vibrant, stable, and viable opposition. I think anybody, even in the presidency in Aso Rock today, who respects institutions and loves democracy will understand that the legitimacy of the government in power stems not just from vote or performance, but also from a viable opposition. To that extent, what happens to opposition in Nigeria is our business. That is why we're following it. Now, what we saw yesterday is a case of, you know, one feels a pity there was no Yerima there. And that is why you've seen all those kind of chaos. I understand this morning that a lot of psychiatrists are not where they ought to be, they're in politics. It might be a good idea that INEC should include a law to say that every party should have an in-house psychiatrist to deal with issues of the party as well. What we saw there is a show of shame in terms of form and process. The content can be legitimate, but it underlines a flaw in Nigerian partisan political elite class. That is, normally, political parties are made up of people of like minds who are bounded together by a common shared purpose. The fact that these people can deploy police officers, thugs, and shouting and shoving and resort to expelling and fighting one another shows you they're not like minds, they're not friends, they're not peers. They're people there to grab power. And this, I must say, today is the PDP, it could be anybody tomorrow. And we've seen that most political parties in Nigeria share these uncivilized, unbecoming, uninspiring traits. And I think we need to look at it as a system problem, not just as a PDP problem. In the PDP, there are people who are going different directions. Wike and those who follow him, for any reason in the world, they have their candidate already who they want to be president. That candidate is not in the PDP. I do not know why they should now be interested in the people who don't want that candidate. Now, I do not know why, but other people know why. I believe, and I want to be very clear here, I believe that it is legitimate for Minister Wike to say that he wants his party to support an APC president. But the way to go about it, I believe, is to have a proper conversation on the table to say, dear party, my name is Wisam Wike. I would want President Tinubu of the APC to be president. Please let us support him. And if the party agrees, then they support him. If they disagree, that will be a minority report. The governor for your state, Seyi Makinde, of whom I'm not a fan, I want you to be on record, spoke well yesterday when he says the issue on the table is that we do not want Nigeria to be a one-party state. So we are contributing to make sure there's a viable opposition. That, for me, is a very noble stance. The challenge now is to see how they can make that happen.
Thank you so much for your opening statement, Professor Kila, and your take on the state of the opposition beyond the PDP. And I think that's a critical matter to address. But I also still want to center around the PDP. And the question has been whether or not the PDP will be able to survive this issue. They say that, yes, political parties have clashes, they have internal wranglings, and they are able to bounce back. Will the PDP be able to bounce back from this? And then, under the Tinubu administration, who is said to be a Democrat, what should be the position of the president based on his self-proclamation and people saying that he is a proponent of he's a Democrat to the core, he wants to see democracy thrive? Should this be happening under his watch, under his administration?
You see, I think I've had cause to say and write many times that of all arts and trade that man has invented, politics is the saddest. You do not expect politicians in times of contest to be objective, fair, and seek justice. If they say so, it's just mouth service. The president and those very near to him do not have interest in truly having a PDP or any opposition that is viable enough to contend with them. The best they can do is that for institutional reasons, they make sure the party exists on paper and they do not use state force against them. But in reality, and I want to speak like adults here, in reality, deep down, they want the opposition party to be weak. The burden of having an opposition party, it is not, and you see, I want to be very clear about this thing. It is not the burden of president and burden of government. It is the burden of those who are in opposition to present a platform that, though devoid of federal power, can have the gravitas, the aspiration and the inspiration to attract people, to show them that they're a viable alternative, an alternative that can meet the present need of the people by providing ideas and dreams, and that can show them that a better future is possible with them. You see, unfortunately, our politicians have taken the shortcut. Instead of providing ideas, they're providing palliative. Instead of providing alternative, they provide conspiracy and backstabbing and name-calling. This is the price we pay when we lower the standard. An opposition should be a vibrant place where people can dream and explore themselves. It should be a place where you go to discuss how to reduce tax, how to provide alternative ways of governing. It should be a market of ideas. But as you can see, all the argument we have is rarely about idea and mostly about people and position. Gossips it has turned to, personal interest. And therein lies the problem. Those who want to lead opposition should, regardless of the government's stance and interest, be able to forge an alliance that is capable of standing to government. The forefathers, the true fathers of this republic did it against the military. The military did not want the civil society to stand. They did not want democracy to stand. And some people were committed enough to make it happen. Okay. This is the battle for this generation to be able to do that.
Okay. Professor Professor Kila, with due respect, you were saying ideas interchange in opposition. They don't do that here. It's indali. That's what they are dancing here. Hey, indali. That's the kind of you think that the political class should be taken seriously. Those are a bunch of clowns in Nigeria. Let me come to the point. Apart from idealism and everything, the question is, you spoke about the military. Do you know why things were better in the military, Prof? Because we had a judicial system that stood tall. We had the judiciary. In this regard, the judiciary too is also part of the mess. How can you explain in a judges' conference they played "On Your Mandate We Shall Stand" while judges were standing up? So the judiciary is part of it.
There is.
Look at the Labour Party. Despite Supreme Court judgment, the problem has not been solved. Others will be going, they are still going to other courts. Wike cannot do all he's doing without the say-so of the powers that be. Let's stop deceiving ourselves. Who gave Wike the kind of police he brought there yesterday? Is it that the entitlement of an FCT minister with that kind of police? So what are we saying? Can you speak to all these points? The country is on its knees.
It's a big shame. It's a big shame, Rufai. You're very right. It's a big shame. And, you know, and let me actually say very clearly, without being misunderstood, I want to face the camera and say, my name is Anthony Kila, and I say shame. Shame on all those PDP people who have provided us with the spectacle that is disgracing of Nigeria, that debases what we call leadership, that does not give children what to aspire to, or at least give them a negative thing. It's a show of shame round. You see, the judiciary, for somebody who studied law and does not practice it, I look at the judiciary in awe with respect that they deserve. But they are not helping matters. There's no other way to put it. Going to that conference and singing a non-party song is a shameful act. And it doesn't matter if it's one person that sang it. I spoke to a friend of mine who's a judge, a very senior judge yesterday, and he said to me, "Oh, what do you want me to do? Should I stand up and gag them?" And I said, yes. Somebody in that room should have had the courage, the clarity of mind and the courage of voice to stand up and say, no, don't do this here. Even just to wave their hand to say, no, stop this. That would have been a place in history for them. It is not enough for them to have it in their mind. Let me say that there were some people in that room, Rufai, that did not agree with that. Not because they don't like APC or they don't like the president, but they understand the respect for institutions. But for the rest of them that allowed it, it's a wrong thing. My advice to the bench and the bar is this: be very careful. Partisan politics generally, and in particular in Nigeria, corrupt, intoxicate, and weakens you. The more incursion, the more familiarity, the more active the bench and the bar is with politics, the less authoritative they become. There's a negative correlation. The bench, and I want to appeal directly here to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, this should be a turning point. As from today, I advise the Chief Justice of Nigeria to champion a cause to re-strengthen the judiciary. The judiciary has to be independent and be seen to be independent. Our cases in court has to be consistent in judgment. We should find a way to eradicate shopping for judgment. There's a simple way to do it. I can donate an app in which all cases will be entered. And anytime somebody brings a case that is already before any court, the new court to which it is brought, in front of who that case is brought, will see that this case has already been discussed and there should be consistency in judgment. Anything outside that is a travesty of justice. It took a young man to quell violence. It's unfortunate that governors and party leaders, in the absence of a Yerima, could not do better yesterday.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Anthony Kila. for joining us. Well, the PDP crisis you are talking about, maybe they should have invited Lieutenant Yerima to the occasion to stop the Wike group by just saying, I'm not a fool, sir, but you cannot have access. But thank you very much.